Right, I'm joined by Joe Tomlinson. It's great to see you, mate. I wanted to chat about the Premier League title race. Obviously, you're more of a neutral these days because Man United are scrapping for a top 4 finish. So what's your perception of the three sides going for the title?
Firstly, let's have a bit of respect in the room, shall we? Scrapping, neutral. I'm not a neutral. Any part of me is a neutral.
We haven't gone for the title in 10 years.
I know we haven't, but I don't think that makes me a neutral. I think I'm coming down. If I wanted a team to win, I want Arsenal to win this Premier League title. No doubt. I don't want Man City to win 4th in a row. I don't want Liverpool to win a 20th. And I kind of like this Arsenal team. I think they're quite a likeable bunch as things go. You know, there's a lot of people online who batter Mikel Arteta and say the celebrations are over the top. I quite like them. They're young.
They're excited about what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're set up really well. I actually think they're the strongest challengers to you. A lot of people keep talking about Liverpool being...
Yeah, what about Liverpool? Because I think they've got more... we've had this debate as well on the show and stuff like that. It's like, I think Liverpool got way more experience of doing it. And I think with Jurgen Klopp leaving, I think there's this aspect to them wanting to sort of see off Jurgen Klopp with a bit of a... celebration, do you know what I mean?
No doubt. I think that's definitely the case. But I do think that Arsenal are the better team. I think Arsenal are better than Liverpool. I think Liverpool have the firepower in forward areas with the likes of Salah, Núñez, Diaz, Jota to score more goals than Arsenal.
Yeah.
But I think, Fergie always used to say it, didn't he? Titles are won on defensive solidity. And you have to say, I think Arsenal got the best defence in the league. I think Arsenal's defence might even be better than City's.
Did you see that Twitter clip where it was like they highlighted 2 goals and it was like the last 2 moments that Arsenal faced a shot on target and it was across 2 different games?
Yeah.
So they're not conceding any big chances, are they?
And I think that's what it could come down to. Honestly, I think Arsenal are going to push City really, really close. And if that forward line can just find a little bit of a spark, if Jesus suddenly puts a run together where he scores 5 or 6 goals in a row, I think they could really challenge City this season.
What's the issue for Liverpool holding them back then? Is it just the defensive record? Is it that kind of change between Konate and Quansah, Van Dijk and Robertson's coming in and outside, Trent as well and Conor Bradley? Is that the issue for you in terms of Liverpool's defensive record?
I'm not sure exactly what it is about Liverpool because I think Van Dijk might be back to his best at the moment. Maybe not his absolute peak, but he's looking like one of the best centre-backs in the league again. I think they've got the best goalkeeper in the league in Alisson, although he's now injured. Probably the best right-back in the league in Trent. But I don't know, structurally maybe, I feel like they're a little bit more vulnerable.
I think our midfield's an issue. I think once McAllister drops out, I think they don't have a defensive midfielder. Endo obviously hasn't played in recent weeks. So Bosley's been in and out the side or injured. I think maybe the midfield for Liverpool might be a bit of an issue. But then you look at Liverpool's front line, I think it gets them out of trouble so many times. Salah's going to come back from injury as well, and Diaz. What do you make of that front 3 for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think the front 3 is outrageous, and the depth they've got in there as well. Diogo Jota's finishing, I think, is just outrageous.
Crazy.
His all-round game, hold-up play, aerially, I think he is one of the best strikers in the league. But like you said, I think injuries aren't being talked about enough about Liverpool. The injury news to Alisson yesterday, that is a major blow. It really is. Like losing him for 6 weeks potentially to a hamstring problem. That's a massive issue.
Huge.
Losing Trent again, losing Dominic Szoboszlai for a seemingly unknown period of time.
Yep.
The forward line, you can almost cover for these injuries. When Salah was out, you think Jota's going to score goals, Núñez is going to score goals, Luis Diaz might chip in as well, Gakpo. But without Szoboszlai, I think they lose a little bit of progression in their passing.
Definitely.
Without Trent Alexander-Arnold, they also lose more progression. They lose more chance creation. As good as Conor Bradley is, and I think he's one of the outstanding talents in English football, he's not Trent yet.
No.
And then they lose the best goalkeeper in world football. I think just injury problems structurally, they're not quite as good as Arsenal. The one thing they've got on their side, like you say, is Klopp. And there is something about Anfield as well, isn't there?
Anfield's a harder place to go.
Anfield is like...
But then Arsenal have beaten Liverpool and City at the Emirates.
I know.
Is that becoming like a low-key bit of a fortress? Do you know what I mean?
It should be, shouldn't it, on paper? But then last season in the run-in, it kind of melted a little bit, doesn't it? And I think there is something to be said for Liverpool's, almost like their fans having the experience of going through title races. I think at the Emirates it can get a bit edgy, whereas at Anfield it always feels like they're just driving you on.
And the
Etihad feels like it's just every game there is just
the Etihad's a fortress, man. So what do you make of Man City? Let's just finish with Man City then, because is it... I feel confident, and obviously people mug me off online for maybe I'm being cocky or arrogant, but all I'm looking as a football fan, let alone a Man City fan. The way we're getting through, the Club World Cup was huge, and it reminded me of Fergie's Man United sides, where you'd end up with multiple trophies every single season because of progressive form, and you carry the form into multiple tournaments. So the Club World Cup, the FA Cup, we're on for a treble. Like, what do you make of Man City this season?
Yeah, I mean, Man City are just imperious, aren't they? Like, they're absolutely insane. And I was reading the articles and watching the clips midweek where kind of Gary Neville and that was saying it is almost a bit unwatchable. And I like kind of semi-agree. Like, it's just every time I tune into City, I think they're going to win. Yeah. There's definitely a lack of jeopardy around City when I watch them, because I just think they are so imperious.
Is that City's fault or everyone else's fault?
It's not City's fault, because City are just so good. Like, they are so good. And if they can keep John Stones fit, I think they've got a very realistic chance of doing another treble. I really do.
I tweeted that he's better than Michael Carrick in midfield. Did you see that?
That's ridiculous.
Is there any argument that he's up there in terms of control, in terms of what he can do in midfield when he pops into midfield? He's as talented as anyone's come out of England.
No.
Really?
I think he's one of the best ball-playing centre-backs I've seen England produce in the modern era. But I think when you're saying one of the best, like, midfielders, I think he is a fantastic player, good enough to play in the midfield. But I think structurally, City are so sound, and it's such a machine that cogs can fit into certain areas. Like, I think Rico Lewis is a prime example of that. A fantastic player, but he can play so many different positions because the system around him works so fluidly. Everybody knows where they're standing. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing down to a T, which helps John Stones in that position. City are just a machine. They are an absolute machine. I think Kevin De Bruyne coming back to fitness at the perfect time. I do think the Jack Grealish injury,
that's worrying.
I actually think that's not like being talked about enough necessarily, because I think particularly in Europe, you look at what he was able to do in the treble-winning season last year in the Champions League knockout games. Huge presence, because his ability to just slow the game down, draw players into him. Although Doku is extremely exciting, he's an amazing dribbler, he doesn't have that Jack Grealish like pauser mentality.
No, he doesn't. The control
exactly,
and the rhythm of the game.
And I think Pep Guardiola values that massively, so that could be a bit of a blow.
Predictions then, final predictions, the top three. How do you think it will pan out as we film right now?
I think City will win it, but I think it will be really close to Arsenal. It might come down to that game at the Etihad.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think it could come down to that game. If Arsenal can win at the Etihad, I think they'll win the league.
Do you think they've got a chance? Can they win at the Etihad?
Yeah.
In a big moment?
Absolutely.
Do you think they can get around a bit of a mental block against City?
I think they can. I think they probably overcame a bit of a mental block when they beat you first time round at the Emirates. I think they overcame another mental block when they beat Liverpool at the Emirates recently. And even when, I think back to last season, when they went to Anfield and they drew 2-2, I know that they threw the game away there, but they were on top. There was moments in that game where I thought, like early doors when they went 2-0 up, I thought they could blow out Liverpool away here. Yeah. I think if they can get their nose in front against City, the defensive solidity they've shown throughout the season it's so hard to break them down.
Yeah, they were good against us.
The structure is amazing. The system that Arteta's got going there is amazing. So if they can get their nose in front, I think they could actually beat City. And if they beat City, I think they can win the league. But I'm not enough of a gambler to say that, so I'm going to say City getting the job done.
Yeah, 100%. And then finally, Man United, do they creep into the top four in your opinion, or top five?
I think top five is a possibility. I think more so because Aston Villa have just hit a little bit of a rocky patch. Injuries have just started to creep into their season, haven't they? You're noticing players like Boubacar Kamara out with an ACL for the rest of the season. I think is a major blow for them. And Man United are just starting to get players back as well. And I know that United have been really patchy, but if the forward line continues to score goals, if Marcus Rashford can just put together a small run of sort of 5 or 6 goals and Højlund keeps scoring.
Garnacho on the right works for me as well.
Way better. Yeah. The Luke Shaw injury is a bit worrying. Because without him, you saw what happened in the second half against Villa when Lindelof has to play at left back or you shift Dalot out of position. Yeah. It's worrying. I think United might just sneak the 5th place ahead of Villa, but I don't think they're anywhere near as good as the likes of Tottenham in 4th.
I think you'll do it, and that frustrates me massively, mate. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people check you out?
Yeah, Sky Sports, Football Daily, and obviously all my own socials, usual places.
Beautiful. Cheers, mate.